Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So I figured out you guys are struggling with some of the options in Battlefield 2042, and also there are things in the game that need some light to be shed on them. Some of these tips might be actually unknown for a lot of more experienced players, since I myself didn't really know about some of these just a month ago. So make sure to stick around until the end of the video, so you might finally find the tip for you. Also, make sure to let me know if you've got a tip that I'm missing down in the comment section. That way I can learn something from you guys. I might actually make a video based on your tips. So without more talk, let's get things going. For number one, we've got the damage number. Now, I've seen a lot of you asking me in the comment section, hey, I'm 107, how do you see the damage you deal to vehicles? How do you know how much damage you deal with every bullet? And questions like that made me want to end this once and for all. Knowing how much damage you deal can sometimes be very helpful, especially with sniper rifles and rocket launchers, maybe even under-barrel grenade launchers, simply because you can determine how much damage you deal to a vehicle and what part of that vehicle takes more damage. Or for sniper rifles, you can determine how much damage those body shots deal and stuff like that. Generally speaking, it's a good thing to know. So with that said, let's see how to enable that, because it's off by default. So to make it visible, you gotta go to options, switch to display tab, then HUD general tab, and then scroll all the way down to damage number. Here you can change the damage number visibility, and now it appears somewhere around your crosshair. Now you have two default options, score log and screen center, but you can also determine exactly where you want that number to pop up by setting the vertical and horizontal offset, which is really a good customization option if you ask me. And finally, you can choose how big you want the text to be, and here's how my settings are. At number two, we've got the minimap view distance, and this one is something that I got familiar with pretty late in my Battlefield 2042 journey, and I absolutely regret it. If you play on PC, there's a key binding for zooming the minimap, which is set to N button by default, and if you're playing on console, just check your key bindings, you're going to find a button for zooming the minimap. If you press that, by default you're going to zoom out from 40 meters to 100 meters, and if you press it one more time, it's going to zoom out even more to 150 meters. By default, if you're on foot, you're going to have a view distance of 40 meters. When in ground vehicles, that will be 100 meters, and when you're in an air vehicle, that will be 150 meters. Now, you don't have to press N and adjust that every single time that you jump into a match, but you can set your preferred view distance as default somewhere in the settings. So let me guide you through this. Simply go to options, then display tab, and then go to minimap section. Here you can see an option called default minimap view distance, which is set to auto by default. However, you can change that to close, medium, and far. What I recommend is setting it to medium, which gives you a view distance of 100 meters by default when on foot, which is just enough. Like, it's the sweet spot for me. However, if you want to even go more than 100 meters, just below you have 3 bars that determine the zoom level for when you're on foot, in ground vehicles, and in air vehicles. So you can go ahead and change those numbers as you wish, but personally, I don't think you're gonna need more than 100 meters on foot, and here's my settings. At number 3, I wanted to let you know how tanks and vehicles take damage. This is something that more experienced Battlefield players probably know, since the dynamics are generally the same in Battlefield 3 and 4 and 2042, but here's the deal. The front armor of vehicles is thicker, and therefore it'll take less damage when getting hit from the front by rocket launchers or the armor-piercing grenade launcher. The side armor takes more damage compared to the front armor, and finally, the rear armor, the back of the tank, or generally speaking any vehicle, takes the most damage possible. So it doesn't matter what rocket launcher you're using, this is how things work with armored vehicles. The same rules apply to armor-piercing under-barrel grenade launchers as well. Now, all of the armored vehicles have turrets as well. The damage you deal when firing directly at the turret is the same as the side armor. So if there's a vehicle coming straight at you, instead of hitting the front armor, try to hit the turret to deal some more damage. So if I want to summarize it, here's how the damage output will look like. You're going to deal the maximum damage possible when hitting the vehicle from behind. Then the side hits and turret hits will deal the same amount of damage. And lastly, the front armor takes the least amount of damage possible. Keep that in mind when you go against ground vehicles. It will save you so much time, so much ammunition, and so much headache. At number 4, I wanted to let you know how important and actually useful the EMP Grenade is, because I see a lot of people sleeping on it, probably because they can't get kills with them. That's what most of the players actually think, which is completely wrong, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So the main goal of the EMP Grenade is to destroy enemy gadgets and partially disable enemy vehicles. Now, what happens with enemy vehicles is that some of them get an engine failure, meaning they get super slow and practically just can't move. The turret rotation speed also decreases to a critical degree, which is just a pain in the butt for the driver, so it hurts vehicles a lot, especially if the enemy vehicle is trying to run away or even get into a fight. Also, it disturbs players on foot by messing with their HUD. They won't have access to the minimap, or any HUD for that matter. Also, if you throw an EMP grenade at any given device, it will be destroyed, so it's going to be pretty useful against enemy strongholds where there are a lot of like Irish APSs, maybe radio beacons, tugs, and other gadgets. On top of all that, there is one more thing that you can do with an EMP grenade that you might not even know about. The EMP can trigger an explosion for both friendly and enemy explosives. There are times when there's an enemy vehicle around some enemy mines, let's say. A simple EMP grenade will blow those mines and send the vehicle to hell. Simple as that. Also, there are times when someone friendly places some C5s on a vehicle but fails to detonate them for whatever reason. Maybe they die before detonating. Those C5s will still be there, and if you throw an EMP at that vehicle, the C5s will blow up and damage the vehicle. You might think that these are rare occurrences, but these actually happen to me more than once, so there's just so much potential with the EMP grenade, and you should absolutely consider using it from now on. Tip number 5 is for snipers out there that might be starting to play a new sniper rifle. I'm pretty sure you've been in the same place before, where you were trying to get a sense of the bullet drop and how much compensation you need to hit those shots accurately, and the bullet cycle actually messed it up by shaking the scope and all that. I know that can be annoying most of the times, and I'm here for a simple fix that you might not know about. Simply hold the trigger button on your gamepad or left click on your mouse after shooting to stop that bullet cycle. This way you won't be having the extra movement with the scope, and you're going to see exactly where the bullet goes, which makes it easier to get used to the weapon's bullet drop. As you can see here, the bullet goes exactly through those mil dots, so you know exactly where the bullet goes, and you can easily compensate for your next shots. That's a very simple way to get a sense of how the weapon works and how much you need to compensate for those shots, so you make sure to keep that in mind as well. Tip number 6 is about some sensors scattered around some of the maps. Now, you might not actually pay a lot of attention to things like this in general, and I get it. Sometimes these details may seem worthless, but believe me, in some situations they can actually save your life by telling you exactly where the enemy is. Now, let me show you these sensors and see what they actually do. For example, in Orbital A2, you've got these doors with a sensor on top of them and a control panel. As you can see here, the panel is white, meaning that it's neutral. As soon as I activate that, it will turn green, and now it means it works on our side. When an enemy passes through the door, it will start beeping and will also spot the enemy for a few seconds. If the panel is red, that means it's been activated by an enemy, and you can take back control by interacting with it one more time. That's how simple it is. The same panel can be found in other maps. There is one in Kaleidoscope C2, for example. This time, this control panel controls the sensors for these 4 doors, and the same rules apply here. Make sure to always take advantage of these small in-game mechanics to be somewhat aware of your surroundings, which is very important in any FPS game. And finally, at number 7, let's talk about scope glint and how you can avoid having it and revealing your position to your enemies. So if you guys don't know what a scope glint is, it's when the sun hits the scope in the right angle and the scope actually reflects that beam. That beam is called a scope glint, which rarely is an issue in real life and practically hard to even notice in most of the situations. But in video games, and especially in Battlefield games, there's a different story. So in Battlefield 2042, any scope with 4 times magnification or higher will have a scope glint if only they look exactly in your direction. So there's a tip right here. If you see a scope glint, that means the dude behind the scope is actually looking at you. So be aware of that. But there are exceptions to this whole scope glint thing in 2042 as well. So let me tell you those exceptions. So the first one is the Ghost Hybrid, which is by far my favorite scope for mid-range. Now, this scope has an adjustable zoom, and you can switch between 1.5 times to 4 times magnification, and that will let you break free from having any scope glint. So that's why you always see me using the Ghost Hybrid on my setups, and I recommend you do the same. The other scope is the Target AT, which has a 4.5 times magnification, but you also get a canted iron sight as well. So the Target AT will not cause any scope glint at any magnification, and if you want more magnification compared to the Ghost Hybrid, this one's going to be your go-to option. You can't just get rid of it on any other scope with 4 times or more magnification, but as long as you want to keep things in mid-range, you can avoid causing it by using the Ghost Hybrid or the Target AT. So keep that in mind as well. And that's about it, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed and hope these tips were helpful. Some of these can actually be very effective, like the minimap view distance. It makes things easier on the battlefield by letting you see more of what's going on around you, basically for free. Some of the other tips might be common sense for more experienced players, but might be very helpful for newer players, so there's always something to learn in videos like this. Remember, if you think I'm missing something, do make sure to go down in the comment section, let me know what that is, so I learn a thing or two from you guys as well. Thank you all guys for watching, and until next time, stay cool.